Welcome back to Making with Laz, and in today's episode, we're going to be continue with our Frankenprinter build. So we're going to be taking this pile of extrusion and turning it into this. So last time, I asked you guys for some names and ideas, so I didn't really get too many. So just thinking about it, I started printing some stuff in yellow, and later down the line, you'll see I have some like hex-shaped parts. So I decided to name it the Hive. So you might be wondering where the original inspiration for this printer came from. So back last year in, June, Creality was releasing their K2 Plus, I think it was. And I tried to get into the pre-order queue and order it twice, but I did not have any luck. So I started looking for other 3D printers, and I found that RatRig was releasing their VCore 4, and I thought that was a pretty cool machine. So I decided to take an existing printer I had, the Tronxy X5 SA, and then try to combine it with the RatRig machine. So what I did is I went onto Amazon and looked for the different sizes of extrusion that they had, and 600 millimeters was the one I stumbled onto because the existing parts for the printer were already 600 millimeters. So I brought a 10 pack of the 20 by 20 extrusion, and then decided to design the entire printer around that, making it so that I don't have to do much cutting for most of the pieces and try keeping them mostly all the same size. And I think I pretty much succeeded in that. Besides, I think it was 4 or 5 pieces that need to be a little bit smaller for the print bed, and the one that's for the gantry that need to be a little bit smaller. So once I had all those pieces designed, I luckily have access to a mill that I was able to use, and then I was able to drill all the holes and add all the counterbores to the parts, so I can kind of attach it all together, and you can see me doing that right now. So I also had a bunch of these fasteners and stuff from previous projects and things that I've bought, so I didn't really have to buy anything as of now, but that's probably going to change with some of the parts that I need down the line, which I don't necessarily have. But yeah, right now we're pretty much just putting together all the side pieces where the linear rails will mount. But what I didn't realize at the time when I was putting it together is I was doing it backwards. So currently you can see that the tall pieces going upwards are the 20 by 40 pieces of extrusion, but those ones should be at the front, not the side. And you can see on the left and the right side, I have those 2 posts going up. Those ones are for where the linear rails are going to mount, and then the one in the back right now is going to be the final one where the linear rails are going to mount, but they need to be kind of rotated 90 degrees from each other. Right now I'm putting together the spacers that properly space out the 2 parts, because initially they were in the wrong spacing, and they need to be kind of in the right spot for the bed to fit properly, so I made these spacer blocks. And all of these blocks were printed on the P1S to the left of me there. Inside of it, I've got one of the bento boxes that kind of recirculates the air. And honestly, I didn't smell any fumes of ABS, which was great. And honestly, I've had 0 warping on the parts. And here's kind of the part that gave me the inspiration for the name of the printer, the Hive. So I kind of printed these in yellow because that was one of the colors I had. And I didn't realize it at the start, but I kind of realized down the line that it would make a cool theme to the printer because it's a fun yellow color, and it kind of reminds me of a bee. And I also have white ABS, which is kind of similar to the wings, and the frame of it's black, which kind of reminds you of the body of the bee. So honestly, I think that should be a pretty cool theming for the entire thing. But realizing when I was putting this part together, I had to kind of take off the top piece. So I'm more or less going to have to re-square the entire frame multiple times throughout this entire process until I kind of get everything to its proper spot. Right now, I'm just sliding these guys into a rough spot. I'll make sure that they're properly aligned down the line, but for now, it's good enough for me. The other thing I didn't realize when I was putting this together is somehow the bar itself was kind of too far apart to begin with, so there's a bit of a gap, but I went back and fixed that. So now we're just turning it around and adding the last 2 of the spacer pieces for the opposite side. At this point, I've already fixed the printer's orientation, so it is no longer backwards. So right now we're just loosening stuff and realizing that it will not move unless I loosen a little bit. So we're just finishing tightening up the top one as well. And we're going to be moving on to the 3 motor mounts. So we're going to have to remove the existing plates from the ones that were already on there, and we're just making sure to orientate the little cable that will control the motor to be facing the backside so it's easier for cable revving. So currently we're just attaching these with the 2 screws here. But down the line, I'll be adding the extra 2 screws as well, so that there's a full 4 holding them down. And we're going to be attaching the motor couplers and stuff later down the line as well. So when I printed these, on the one in the middle, I added supports, and on the other 2 I didn't, so I had to do a bit more cleaning up for those ones. But now we're just adding the T-nuts and stuff to actually mount it onto the frame. So we're just finishing that up here. And then we're going to be adding these to the frame itself. So these are going to be attaching to existing parts of the frame, and we're going to be adding additional parts of extrusion to mount it on as well. And now we're just finishing up with the bottom legs. So these ones are just going to be a temporary space that we're using just so everything can get mounted. But later down the line, we will be removing these and replacing with something a lot nicer. And now we're just going to be attaching these parts to the bottom of the frame. And then that was me realizing that I had an extra Tina in there, and I physically can only put it on the one side. So I pretty much had to take out a Tina for each one of these, mount it to the bottom, and then it was fine. But that was a little bit of an oversight on my initial design, but luckily I didn't print out the final ones. So now we're just going to be mounting the motors to the actual frame itself. So there's two of these identical ones, which go to the left side and the right side here. So we're just attaching 3 of the T-nuts. And now we're just going to move it to the back here. And we're going to be putting the one in the back. But currently this one's floating, but we will be remedying that in a second here when we attach these 2 extra bars to the back and the front. So these are just going to add as a extra point of contact for everything, so it's not floating in the air, and it's a bit more supported. So the bar was right on size, so I had to kind of squish it in there, but we're just tenning all that stuff down on both sides so that we can pretty much get the final design done for today, and we'll be able to move on to the next one. Here is the printer in its current state. So we have the spots to mount all the stepper motors, we have all the extrusion pretty much put together besides the gantry on the top, and the heat bed. So in total, let's see how tall this guy stands at its current height. It stands about 65 centimeters tall, or roughly 25.5 inches tall. So this thing is going to take up a lot of space. I hope you join me next time where we'll be adding all the motion and machining some custom stepper motor plates. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.